Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus main review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Gauntlet, released in 1985 by Atari. Now this was one of the first 4-player arcade games. As you see, I'm playing the 2-player version so I could select my character. I'm selecting the Valkyrie.
Pressure 100 points.
And now this is one of those games where you could have up to 4 players, and the basic gist of it is you have to find your way through the like this really big maze where there's like power-ups, like there's keys.
To open doors.
There are magic potions which will clear a whole screen of enemies. And of course the keys open these little like things here that look like gates. You'll see there's a potion there.
For later use.
And it's just one of those classic arcade games that a lot of people remember when they were young. And a little bit of the thing about the game is, strangely enough, it doesn't say anything about it in the game, but each of the characters actually has a name. Like, the warrior's name is Thor, Thyra is the Valkyrie, Merlin, of course, is the wizard, Questor is the elf. And each of the characters has, like, their own strengths. Some are faster, some have better defense. Of course, some do more damage, like, as you'd imagine, the warrior does more damage because he throws axes. And in order to stop the enemies, just like in the later one, Gauntlet, Gauntlet Legends, which I played a lot more of, you just have to break these generators so the enemies will stop coming. And of course, there are actually warps to later levels, which I have seen in this game, but I just wanted to show you the first few levels of this game and what they look like. They're pretty simplistic. The only problem that I have with this game, playing it now, as opposed to like playing this back in 1985, is after a while it just becomes a bit of a button masher, because after a while all you're doing is just mashing the attack button, since your magic and other things don't come into use as often as you think they would be. But now, as far as ports of this game go, this is one of those games that it's been on just about every console known to man. So instead of like worrying about any of those like classic collections or anything, I'm just going to tell you about like the original console ports. So just about all the ports were around like the same-ish time, but then there were some that were a little bit later, of course, just like a lot of the ones that I talk about where it takes a lot later to release one. You had your Sega Master System only in Europe in 1990. Let's see. Of course, the list that I'm reading this off of doesn't sort the ports properly. The Nintendo version wasn't really a port; it was more of a like new game entirely. But there was Gauntlet Rampart, which was released in 2005 on the Game Boy Advance. That was actually a pretty nice port of this game for the portable, but you also got Rampart along with it. And as I'm looking at this list, there are tons of like classic collections, greatest hits, Midway Arcade treasures, you name it. And you'll notice like there are all these different, like there's the ghosts, there's the grunts. In later levels you'll actually face the sorcerers, and there are the lobbers, who are these guys who throw things. Then there's these little demon guys who actually shoot stuff as well. In my next couple of videos I will be showing you the Sega Master System, Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Sega Genesis versions of this game. And the reason why I wanted to especially show like the Nintendo and the Master System, which would be the next video, is because they are two quite different games in comparison. And then of course the Genesis is very close to this. But the only thing I find annoying, like with a lot of these maze games, is you'll like be fighting, and you'll be trying to get to a certain area. Like there, if you looked over there really quick, there was a warp to stage 8. But some of the later stages in this game, you'll actually find that there are actually paths that lead nowhere. So you will be like fighting all these enemies, clearing a whole screen, and just find out that you just basically did it to get in a corner where there are a bunch of treasure chests. And the only reason, of course, that you'd want to do that is if you're going for a high score, but I can honestly say, unless you're like the King of Kong and you really want to get a high score to be like in a record book, I doubt really anybody's trying to do that anymore. It's more for the fun of playing the game. And if you were spending quarters on this, I could easily see how this would be a like a cash cow for the arcade operator, because everyone would have to spend a ton of quarters on all the life they have to buy. Because like every time you insert 1 coin, you get 700 health. So that's how they easily make it. So it's not so much like a traditional game. It would be continuous, whereas this game, each coin gives you more health. So
beware the demon.
It gives you a lot of benefit to put more coins in the machine. Now these were the ones I was telling you about that shoot stuff. These are the demons. And I have noticed as I was playing with the other characters, I have about a little bit under a minute of footage with the 3 other characters later in this video, is that it'll say like how much they take in damage from different enemies, and for all the enemies it's a little bit more for each of the characters, or a little bit less depending on which character you're talking about. Like for instance, the barbarian, or the warrior as they call him, takes a lot less damage. But of course his disadvantage is he's a little bit slow, whereas like the Valkyries, your more rounded female character, and then you have like the very quick elf, or as it's later in Gauntlet Legends, the archer, who is the faster character, but a little bit like maybe a little bit more susceptible to damage than, say, the stronger characters. The only thing that puzzles me about this is, other than that theme in between stages, there's no actual music in this game. So, in general, that's another thing that just kind of makes this whole experience seem a bit dull. Because you look at this and you're like, this is actually a pretty fun game, but having almost silence other than like your character's moans and grunts and like the sound of you throwing your weapon or doing hand-to-hand combat. Oh yeah, and by the way, if the character gets too close, your character starts hand-to-hand combating, but they will actually take some damage. But other than like that little bit of sound, it just gets a little bit like it just. Let's say it's not candy for your ears when it comes to the sound department. And all you have is like a little like chink, chink, chink here and there to signify that you've picked up something. So it's not anything like really amazing. But then again, when you really consider it for 1985, this is actually a pretty decent effort. So it's not exactly the worst game, but then again, there are other arcade classics in my opinion that are a little bit better than something like this would be. Now, that's the first time you see Death, and he's killed by just simply pressing the magic button, or when he sucks up enough health. Now, I wanted to show you this part because this is Treasure Room. And one thing you'll notice here, it has music. But the strange part, I'm guessing it's a limit of the arcade hardware. When you pick up the treasure, it makes no sound. So I guess it couldn't do both. It's probably a limitation of the hardware, most likely.
Your shot's now stun other players.
And now here's a quick view of what the elf looks like. You'll see he's very quick and speedy, and he shoots his arrows really quick. But what I found is it seemed like you needed to do like more to hit the enemies, and it took just a little bit more to take them down with him, and he just seems to bleed health a little bit quicker too. So like for his speed, he takes a little bit of a advantage and disadvantage. So for speed, you lose your resilientness. Now here's the wizard. This is all the way in level 8. he has these fireballs he can throw really quick. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I found that the wizard seems to be okay when it comes to the health department. He doesn't bleed it as quickly as the elf. So he has a little bit better than that. Each of them have their weird way of boning, which, like, I know with the wizard, it got a little creepy after a while and a little bit weird.
Remember, don't shoot food.
And I know with this video, I want to make it more of a quicker video than some of my other ones, because I can just say, like, this game is fun for a while, but after a while you just get bored of it, because it's just... I can just say it hasn't aged well. If you had 3 friends to play it with, it'd be a great game to play, but alone, it's not really the most fun game to play. And here's your warrior who has this very strong, but he's very slow. But yeah, that's Gauntlet. A good game to play, much more fun with friends. It'd be a much more fun time if you had a group. So that's another Game Nexus Mame review, and I will see you in the next video coming soon. Bye.